The thing that I love about the Wise Guys teams is that you guys have a knack for finding the most passionate founders. They know what they're doing, they believe in what they're doing, and nothing is going to stop them.
It is really intense, I have to say, but I really enjoy it because I feel every day I'm totally evolving in this program, and I see that I have so many weapons already.
It's challenging at times. We come with a strong background of doing a lot of things at once, but it's just amazing to be next to the teams, showing all the creativity you can to help them. So it's not something you have to deliver, it's very creative work, and that's what I'm very surprised that I really like it.
I think the best of the people part always. You already know everything, but here the borders are infinite, just so much things to learn.
One of them is the passion, and the other one is how much we care about each other. Among everything, we are a team that really likes to spend time with each other, and part of that is because we all share the mission.
Because I always had the feeling that this is the family that I have.
This is not a job, this is what we love to do. I think when you can mix that one, it's great. We just have to sometimes understand that, hey, there is more people around us, and we have to put some time for them.
For us, it was mainly like a crash course startup MBA, basically, kind of. It's kind of like a bottle of good wine, kind of that keeps getting better all the time.
I mean, Wise Guys team is what keeps me energized through everyday life. When I started working with the startup scene, Wise Guys was my kind of entryway, so I feel like it's a family. I'm like an adopted startup Wise girl.
I just remember one scene from the Tech Chill 2 months ago when you had the demo day with Swedbank. Nearly all the startups were nearly crying when they said goodbye to the mentors. You know, they can really feel the energy, and I think culture beats everything. And I also see Wise Guys as an execution machine.
Yeah, and people ask that why do you do that? There is no money, and very many accelerators have failed after a year or two. I believe that if you really want to do it, if it's your vision, and then you just can't give up, and you will figure it out how it works.
And you have to pitch on the big stage, right?
Yes, my hands are already shaking.
It's too easy for us because this whole month, startup Wise Guys, every day we preaching. It's easy for us.
Now we are only going up, and only the sky is the limit.
This is love for what we do at the end of the day, and this is our life that we want to have.
I already know that when it's over, then I'm gonna cry.
3 minutes of station, now back to work.
Hello, welcome to the stream. My name is Mariia. I am a managing director of the Wise Guys XR batch that is upcoming, and I'm super excited to be accompanied by this amazing group of founders. I will give you a word in just a second, but I would like to make a preview of why this is happening. We are right now in the scouting season of the very first XR accelerator for the startup Wise Guys, and we wanted to make a session of events for us to talk about the X reality, the founder's journey that we will cover today. And that is why we have invited these gentlemen. So I would like to give you a small word to introduce yourself and your business, and then I will dive into questions. Timmu, let's start with you.
Sure. Thank you. Thanks for inviting me. Great to be here. My name is Timmu. I'm the CEO of PM EEST. We're building a cross-game avatar platform for virtual worlds for the metaverse. So as an end user, you can take an avatar and use it in now almost 2,000 different games and worlds. And as a developer, you don't need to invent an avatar system. You get a great avatar system from us that is plug and play. You can integrate in a few days and focus on the core game or virtual world experience you're building. Yeah, and we've been building avatars for 8 years. We raised like $22 million and now have almost 2,000 companies that work with us. Including brands like Adidas and New Balance and Dior and many others that create assets for avatars. And we're like a 40-something person team, hiring a lot of people at the moment. So if you're interested in joining a journey and building cross-game outers, then please hit me up.
Definitely consider. Thank you so much. Mikko, let's continue.
Yeah, hi, I'm Mikko. I'm Chief Product Officer and one of the co-founders at Immersal. We're a spatial computing company doing XR, AR, whatever you call it. Basically, tools to enable the metaverse, so mapping and localization. And last summer, we became a part of Hexagon, which is a huge corporate with almost 22,000 employees, and I'm here to maybe share some insight of our 6-year journey.
Thank you so much. Cihat.
Hi there, amazing to be here, amazing to be again part of Startup Wise Guys as always. So my name is Cihat Kahraman. I'm the CEO and one of the co-founders of VSight. We help enterprises to do their operations remotely with augmented reality and smart glasses. We connect the experts to the field workers, and they solve the problem remotely in a very short time. So we are a B2B startup headquartered in Lithuania, and happy to be here and looking forward to just receive some questions and engagement from the audience.
Thank you so much. And that's a good point. Actually, I am looking at the comments in our social media. So wherever you're looking, first off, know that all of us, we see the comments, and then whatever interesting comments we will find or questions to the audience, we will make sure that we ask them. For now, I will start with some of the things that I have prepared for you guys. Ready Player Me. This is an interesting story of where you started and where you're going right now, right? So is it fair to say that basically you started from photo booth or, similar scanning system, and now you're in metaverse? Tell us a little bit more. And if you don't mind also, what have been your journey with talking to investors and making them believe in what you're doing?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so first, we started 8 years ago when Oculus was acquired by Facebook, and we realized avatar was going to be a big part of VR. And our goal was basically to solve the avatar creation and make it easy for people to create avatars on scale. And we started actually from hardware, built those photo booth kind of 3D scanners we had in public places, scanned tens of thousands of people with those, and then used the database we collected to build an SDK that predicts avatar shapes from a single photo. And then, our business for 3-4 years was just selling that SDK, selling that technology to big gaming companies and enterprise customers. So our customers were like Tencent, Huawei, HTC, Vodafone, Verizon, and many others. And that was not a very scalable business, but it was a cash flow positive business. And it really taught us, how to build avatar systems, because we sold the SDK, but we ended up building the whole avatar system around the SDK as well. So clothing systems, bodies, all that stuff around that. And then basically we managed to build a product that is more kind of a plug and play solution for developers after having built custom avatar systems for 3-4 years. And that's Ready Player Me. We launched Ready Player Me less than 2 years ago. Last year, we started from 25 companies using our product. We ended up with 1,000. Now it's almost 2,000. So the kind of uptake from developers has been very rapid. And that's the journey. But it's always been the metaverse. It's always been kind of creating avatars for virtual worlds that travel across worlds, having a database of avatars that can port over. It's just the market wasn't ready, even close to being ready to when we started. The technology wasn't ready. Companies, the mindset wasn't there. We were young and stupid and all that stuff. So it took a long time to learn, and it took some time for the market to kind of mature as well. But now we're in a position where we have skills that nobody else in the world essentially has, after having grinded for 8 years. And we're completely leading the kind of cross game outer race. So that's kind of the story. And both investors,
what about the investors?
Yeah. So we went through Wise Guys actually like 6 years ago or 5 years ago or something like that. And we've had very different experiences fundraising. So like for the first 6 years or 7 years of the company, it was just a massive pain, right? You know, going through speaking to 100 investors, trying to convince people to fund your hardware scanning photo booth business. It wasn't easy. And then every round was just a major pain. It took like 3 months to 9 months to 12 months even to raise money. It was just a survival basically, until to a point where we built a product that had a very obvious product market fit, and we started growing very quickly, and the market was ready, and people started speaking about the metaverse, and it's really like a timing question. That's something that people don't realize as a young founder. I think like how important timing is to what you're doing. If you manage to persist over a long time and you're right, then you can still make it. if you don't like exactly, if you're not right on time, but it's not easy. It's hard and it takes a long time. So it's especially, I think, with like emerging technologies where the technology itself needs to evolve, the market needs to evolve for your product to be useful. If you're selling like a sales software, like it's like there's timing matters for like competition and things like that, for sure, but it's not as sensitive or as important as it is with like emerging markets, right? Yeah, and like in the last fundraise we did was Series A. It was like 7 term sheets in 10 days. If someone like told me that before, I was like, yeah, I mean, like, that's crazy. And obviously the market is hot. Obviously we're in a hot part of the market and we're doing well. And now actually we might have some news about our next round soon. So let's see. And yeah, so I would say if there's like some advice. So first, like timing matters. How your business is doing matters the most in fundraising. And I think one thing that especially young founders don't do enough or don't understand enough in fundraising is like how important the fundraising process is. Like the number one thing you can do to make yourself more fundable or close around fast is to manage the process of fundraising. If you just like write to some investors here and write to some investors there and have a conversation with one and you think it's going to close, it doesn't close, you start speaking with other people, it's going to take you forever. So the only thing you can do as a founder is you can very strictly manage the process, which means you prepare the 30 or 40 funds or 50 funds or whatever you want to get in touch with. You get in touch with the ones that you really don't want to raise from first. You practice, you get your questions straight, you do all these things. That's the first kind of phase for us. We plan to do it like 2 weeks, 2 weeks, 2 weeks. 1 week pitching, 1 week follow-ups with the first group, 1 week pitching, 1 week follow-ups for the second group, which is the main group you want. And then the third group is just to create pressure for the second group. So anyways, learn a lot about process with fundraising because investors won't move unless they have to, right? It's always better business for them to stay waiting and see more data and see how the market evolves and learn more about who you are and all that stuff, unless you put them in a position where they have to decide, right? And the only position is where someone else gives you an offer, and that's how you do it. You go out, you pitch to a lot of people at the same time. You start getting offers. You tell everybody you start getting offers. Everybody's like, oh shit, like we need to move fast. Then you do get an offer. You get a first term sheet, and then you tell everyone you have your first term sheet. Everybody just gives you, like a process can be 2 days. So it depends on the round and background you have with the investor. But and the other thing is like the best investors move really fast, right? Like the worst investors are the ones that are like, well, let's go through your the financial model, third year projection of your seed stage company that is pre-revenue. Like, good investors don't do that stuff. Good investors are very fast and make a decision quickly because they know they can lose the deal. So you need to get to a point where the question is, are you going to fit in the investor as soon as possible? And then the dynamic changes completely. And that's the thing you can fully control as a founder. And that's the number one, like fundraising advice. You just need to like do it at one time.
Awesome. Thank you. Thank you so much. And thanks for turning this into the advice right away. I didn't have to pull that out of you. That's good. Thanks. Mikko, if you don't mind, I will then go to the next question and direct it to you. So I think one of the most popular dreams, or one-off, right? When you're building the startup, you're thinking about the exit, and it's like one of the things that at least the young founders are looking forward to and considering. So tell us a little bit of your story with Immersal. How did it happen? Have you planned this at all? And then, am I correct that it happened with only four founders in the team?
Yeah, so I think Immersal was officially founded in December 2015, but basically everything started in 2016. We got a team and started working on our first AR app, basically. And the company has gone through changes during the years, or pivoting, as we say. But one thing that has always been the same, that we started with the plan to make AR for large spaces. So like some tabletop AR or face manipulation or stuff like that. But we want to enable AR in big spaces, which is nowadays known as metaverse, I guess. So back in 2016, ARKit and AR Core were not available at the moment yet. So we started with these AR markers, and we made this app for the exhibition center of Helsinki, a huge space, and we had like 200 1 meter times 1 meter markers on the ceiling, and used our own computer vision algorithms to do the localization. And we had all the gimmicks like multiplayer, and you could see some content on top of all the booths when they had an exhibition, and AR ads and that kind of stuff. But it was very clumsy to do. We had to measure the positions of the markers on the ceiling by laser, and then input them in Unity and make like a matching scene. So it wasn't very scalable. It took like many days to set up the place, but it still worked without ARKit or AR Core, which was kind of amazing. And we did this whole thing in less than 6 months from scratch. So it was kind of cool. But then we soon realized that it's not a very scalable solution. We tried to sell it to other exhibition centers in Europe, but then Apple released ARKit, and we could like take some advantage of the tracking there, but still we started to think about the whole world as a marker. So basically mapping all the spaces and doing the localization that way without using
that is quite ambitious. Have you had challenges on trying to explain, because this is a technological product, right? What were your struggles on trying to talk to the first customers, investors, and actually presenting what you're doing?
Yeah, we did some pilot projects and like proof of concept projects for several Finnish companies mainly, and nothing big. I think the market is still a bit early for AR, so everybody wants to experiment with it and do some stuff, but nothing really lives on. I don't know. I think that will change soon, but anyway, we're still at the beginning. But so that's when we first pivoted when we started to make our own technology. We couldn't really sell these projects, so we decided to make it into an SDK so that other developers can use it to make AR experiences and apps and so forth. And it took almost a year to clean up the code and make it like a real SDK, because it was everything was done from scratch basically, so it was a bit of a mess. To make it usable took some time, but then we launched the SDK almost 3 years ago at AWE, and then people started to use it, and we've been putting out a new release every about 2 months, so constantly adding features. And
and how did it come to actually first conversation with Hexagon? How did that go?
That's a funny story. We didn't know about Hexagon at all. Like, it's a kind of faceless company. I think it's one of the biggest companies in Sweden. So we were at AWE in Munich back in 2019, and we had a booth there, and we were demoing our technology, and we had a demo app, and there were very cool people at the booth. Some guy from Facebook, some guy from Intel, and then these Hexagon guys, they didn't wear any badges, so we didn't know who they were, and we just did a demo like for everyone else, and we didn't hear from them until almost a year later. And so we didn't know what is Hexagon, who they are, but we were under their radar, obviously. So
what do you think brought the success? So if you were to highlight, something that actually worked in this deal.
Yeah, well, they are making these Leica cameras, BLK2Go, which are like basically mapping devices. They have a LiDAR scanner and SLAM tracker and everything in a camera that costed like 30,000 euros back then. So they contacted us and wanted us to support their camera, basically, because what it lacked was the localization abilities. So they didn't even send us a camera, just some images taken with the camera, and it took us less than a week to make support for that pipeline, so we could construct localizing maps from the data. I guess they were quite impressed of our speed of execution and so forth. So that's when the negotiations kind of started. But we at first we didn't even know if they want to acquire us or just buy a software license. So it took, I don't know, more than 6 months, and we had a consultant or a broker leading the negotiations. So, but then when they wanted to start the due diligence, then we kind of knew what's happening.
And how did it change your life now after everything happened?
Yeah, like many of our competitors were sold to different companies like Scape to Facebook, 6D AI to Niantic, and Blue Vision Labs to Lyft. And basically these companies, they disappeared overnight if they had an SDK or something all gone. And our story is a bit different. We're like an independent entity within Hexagon. So what's changed was that our logo now has this part of Hexagon small print under the logo. So we have our own business plan, which we are executing, and we can hire our own employees, and it's basically pretty much the same as before. So it's like a startup without the problems of a startup. So we don't have to look for money all the time and look for investors.
So
and
maybe last one here, and then I will move to Cihat.
And I would like to add that we are also, of course, integrating our technology to Hexagon technology. So we are independent, but we are also doing stuff for them. So
Sure. So last one here. Was it a goal when you were creating this, the four of you? How did you envision the future of this product and startup?
yeah, we weren't from the beginning. We at some point we were, I think, over 10, but we were doing many different things at the same time. We had an AR game and all kind of stuff, and then we decided to focus on only the technology, so on the SDK, and that's where many people left because they weren't needed anymore. And then we also we were constantly running out of money, so we had to scale down the team size. So the last 2 years we were just 4 people, and only working on the SDK and with a very clear focus, and not doing anything extra.
Yeah, I think that's a part of the success story. Thank you so much.
Yeah,
So,
I think the a problem with many startups is that they're doing too many things at the same time. Should only focus on the core thing and try to make that work and sell it.
Thank you. VSight, you're one of the well, at least on this panel, one of the fresh alumni from the startup Wise Guys. My question to you is probably also about your early journey. So I did speak to Alexa, who was managing your batch, and we discussed with her that probably an interesting story to hear from you was your expectations, for example, on entering the German market that you were planning to do overnight, maybe, but it actually took you like 1.5 years. So maybe a question here is, first, tell us your story, and then second, what do you think should startups actually encounter and think of when they're trying to enter large markets?
Yeah, good times with Alexa back in Vilnius 2019. The story is that we were thinking to hit the German market, and like we were kind of consulting many mentors, like different people, like how should we do that, because we didn't know anything, we don't know the local language, etc. And all of them, they were saying like, please be careful, it's a very hard market, you will just try to crack, and actually you will fail, and it's very expensive to be there, etc. But we were kind of a bit stubborn on that. And like first, actually, I should confirm that they were right. I mean, they weren't not right, but they were right. I mean, we tried ourselves with English, not being local, and we tried ourselves with like outreach through LinkedIn. We are scraping different lists and stuff. So we had very much of struggle there, actually. But the thing is, like, we had some quite good feedback regarding the product, regarding the interest, etc. But also we saw what is missing there, So that was a good warm-up and exercise, I should say. And like generally on an advice point, usually we get the question like, when should we hit the market? And this is like as soon as possible, actually, because we learn on the road, like you learn on the road, you get some feedback. Even that is very precious, especially if you're on like a young startup just warming up. It is very important not like, of course, if you can sell, just sell it. That's amazing. But I believe that it's also important to have a product and have a system that you can sell in 1 year, sell more than 200 customers, etc. So I believe that learning that process is also very precious and very important, especially for early stage startup. So anyways, we just hit the market, and then we couldn't do anything, no traction after 2 months, 2 months and a half, 3 months. And then, we saw that we should be very local there. And I mean, that's kind of very obvious. I mean, if you're on B2B, if you're in a conservative market like Germany, and you have to be local, and that was the thing that we learned. And then we just started recruiting someone local. We said that we will have someone there speaking local language, having the local outreach, etc. And that was actually for us how we had some tractions from the German market, and we are very happy to be there. It didn't took like 1 year and a half or something. It was like overall, I think, it took for us like around 5 months to analyze and learn what was the reason and what should do, and then recruiting for around like 2 months, 3 months, and then having the first traction. I think it was like after the initial process, it was around 1 year. So like, 9 months, 10 months, etc. But what I'm saying is like, I think it is very important to be in the market, get some feedback from the customer, especially if you're early stage. That is the most precious and most important part of selling something, of building your venture. That is, I believe, that is like the most important part.
And where are you at right now? Which markets have you managed to touch and maybe test the waters? What would be your general feedback? What should be, usually the strategy of how do you approach it right now? What are the learnings?
Mm-hmm. Well, right now we have around 130 customers from 29 countries. Biggest proportion of the revenue is coming from the German market with around 42%. And other than that, it goes like United States, France, Poland, Italy, etc. In last couple of months, we're having more and more countries which we haven't been actually. So we are not doing, in some markets, we are not doing anything outbound. I mean, we are just like, our website is there and we are just getting traction, getting prospect and lead generation through the inbound with the blog posts, etc. So that is in the markets where we are not local. We don't do anything specific because you have to be local, And other than that, we also launched a partnership program, which was also very important for us actually. So we have a partnership program which we accept partners, which is kind of our resellers, and they have a margin on the ticket. And basically, they help us on the localization of the product, on the translation, localization of the marketing papers, etc. And that is also something where, in my opinion, is something to discover for the early stage startups. It is not easy. It is hard to manage, I should say. It is also some work to also do lead generation for the partners. I mean, you have to touch base. You have to kind of convince them that there will be a win-win situation, But I believe that it's also about the learning on the path, and we learned a lot from our partners also. And I believe that managing all the feedback that is coming from the local market is also opening some ways to kind of shape the future of the product. I believe that those local insights are also very important, where like kind of you learn not from only one perspective, but I believe that for the B2B especially, every conservative market is very special. The dynamics are very different. I mean, the way that they work is very, very different other than the language. I mean, let's say you have a translator, but that doesn't solve anything actually. You have to be local. So in that case, as a startup, limited resources, etc., partnerships could be something to discover and to see like if you can have a win-win situation there. And for us, after the partnerships, of course, I mean we are having like expanding our business one by one through different countries, and we pick those from an initial tractions. If we see that there is value in the market, there is demand in the market, and we kind of check if manufacturing companies are spending money on the digitalization, on remote work, how many of the manufacturing companies are there, that is like what is the percentage of the GDP in that manufacturing. So those are things that we do a pre-work on the countries, and then we decide which countries are going to come next.
Sure. I can see there is a question from Andre. So how to approach early stage when product is not ready yet? And what did you sell to B2B customers at the very, very beginning?
I'm just reading the question. Yeah, cool. Well, like the sales itself is like, I think having some technical background is very important, especially if you're in the XR. In my opinion, that's very important. I am a computer engineer, but I'm doing only sales for 5 years. I think knowing and kind of like getting familiar with the technicalities on the background is very important for the sales also, as you kind of transform those feedback as an actionable items, and you kind of solve with some quick pills, even though like you don't have anything ready in the product. You just say, yeah, that's ready, or it will be ready in one week. So I believe that for early stage, that's very important. I mean, we did not integrate all the requests from the customer, especially on the early stage. We kind of validated those with other customers too, in case that was something very important. But also it depends on the ticket size. I mean, if the ticket size is going to be very huge for you, I mean, in that case, we also charged the additional amount of work that we will do, that we will add to the product. That was also one of the kind of revenue generating point for us, and that would also cover some of our expenses. So yeah, I mean, in the early stage, in my opinion, you shouldn't say no. You should say just like, yeah, it is on the roadmap and it will come soon. So like no is something very bold, but like, yeah, you should be careful about that. But I think it is very important to manage that process also, you know, like how you get the feedback and how you make the customer happy in that process.
Sure.
Yeah, I would add like
yeah,
it's important to understand like what is your go-to market strategy, and that's like you can't quite figure it out before you have a product. But that could be a product that you sell for $1,000 per month, and you sell it to you know, let's say 50 customers per year or something like that, or like or that could be a product that is like $12 per month and you sell it to a lot more customers per year. Or there could be a product that we were in the business of, which is like $100,000 or $200,000 per year, and you only make like 5 or 10 deals per year. The other thing is like the important step, you know, going from the very early stage where you potentially as a technical founder do sales and know all the kind of the details of the product, is to go from that to a scalable sales machine, which means like, well, we have like 5 people that are making $1 million revenue per year or something like that, closing like It can be less. It depends on where they are or whatever. There's some levels, and then you can predictably say that if you're going to invest X amount of dollars to hire 5 or 10 more people, you're going to generate that much more revenue, and that gets you to the next milestone, and then you can raise the next round or whatever. So, and that's like a very different dynamic. You as a founder, like you can sell stuff that other people can't sell because you built it, you believe in it, you're excited, you know the details of the product, all that stuff. But then to have and you can kind of make sales. You can sell before you have product market fit. You can just kind of force people to buy it, to a certain level. But then the next the big kind of a test is like, can you build a team? Can you scale a team that sells it also? And like, those will be salespeople. They need to know exactly what they sell, what is the script, all this stuff. You need to build a machine that is repeatable and scales. And that's like, that's hard, right? So anyways, just something to think. And before you have a product, you need to just still, understand who the customer is that you're building the product for. And for that, you kind of need to do sales, and you can approach it from not a sales angle. You can just be like, hey, we're building a product to solve a problem that we think you might have. Like if those people have that problem, actually, they're very happy to spend time with you and give feedback and kind of experiment and be the early customers. But yeah, anyways, it's important to get to customers as soon as possible, obviously.
I agree. Customer interviews are underrated for sure.
I think they are. Everybody rates them very high, but nobody makes them. Everybody says that they should speak with customers, but like nobody really speaks with customers as much as they should.
That's true. That's true. Thank you. Well, since we're here, I also have a follow-up question to you. I think one of the differences is that VSight is mostly working with the businesses that will use the technology than with their employees or whoever is going to be the end user. But both your startup and Immersal are actually working more with the ecosystem, right? So you're working with different players within the playground. And I wanted to ask, was this also a part of your strategy? Because, we started from just scanning and creating avatars, but now you're actually enabling a whole new level of interactions within, right? So was this the strategy from the get-go? And where do you see it fits? Why is this a value, and how does it change the industry?
Yeah. So when we built Ready PM, we built it to be the default avatar for all things virtual worlds, or the default avatar system. So that was like, that is the goal. So like, how can you get there? Like first, what does need to exist? We see that the metaverse and virtual worlds, it's not one place, it's not one app, it's one game. It's a network of thousands of different places you can visit. And today, every game has their own avatar, like their own different avatar. And that's like not very, that's not a good user experience. Like you will end up just using one game or a few games because it's very hard to navigate between them. You have to start building your avatar, your status, your, everything from scratch in each world. And that's just like, that's not a metaverse. It's like the gaming of today. The difference between that gaming of today, where there have lots of closed apps, and the metaverse is that those worlds are connected. It needs to feel like somewhat consistent, jumping from one, like it needs to be a consistent experience jumping from one world to another. And avatars and identities is like who you are in the metaverse. So it makes sense that your avatar is portable and travels with you across worlds. So that's what we want to achieve. Okay. How can you do that? Well, you can't just create an avatar model that just jumps between games. Like it's just like not doable technically. So you need to somehow unify the avatar across all these games. And the way we do it is like we give games a great avatar system. Ready PM, they can integrate, so they wouldn't have to invent an avatar system. And as a byproduct of now thousands of companies using our avatar system, we're actually unifying the avatar standard across all these places. So we can create a system where you can go from one game to another and have the same avatar, and so forth. So like, and it's just like you need to do those things to become that thing. You need to work with developers, you need to work with brands to get awesome content for avatars. You need to work with obviously end users to travel, make them travel across worlds. It's just a platform business, and a platform business has several parts. So our platform has 3 parts. It's like developers, the integrate avatar system. It's content creators, brands, and so forth that create the stuff for the avatars. We just launched a big drop today with Adidas this morning, actually. And then there's end users, obviously, that use the avatars, and that's where it all is for. And we sell to developers that integrate the avatar system, and then end users actually are the users of the product. So, anyways, that's kind of like how it works.
Thank you so much. Mikko, I would also want to hear maybe your couple of thoughts about why enabling the players in the market, right? So why SDK, why creating the technology like that?
Yeah, I liked what you said before, that we're an ecosystem company. That sounds much better than middleware. So basically, we don't have the resources to make AR apps ourselves. So we decided to focus on the technology and make good samples. We have like indoor navigation and everything, so people can use those samples as a starting point and then create their own stuff with the technology. And also initially we had a price for the SDK, different plans like small spaces, medium-sized spaces, large spaces, but then even the small spaces plan was something like less than €100 a month, but it was too expensive for many indie developers. So we decided to make it free and kind of kickstart the AR ecosystem. And then we have these enterprise features that we sell for big companies, and that's where the money comes. And basically the SDK is free, and you can do apps and publish them in the App Store and Play Store. And only when if the usage becomes too high, then we probably ask them to buy a license. But anyway.
Yeah, amazing. You also have a question from the public. So what was the main reason when deciding to be acquired instead of further funding rounds?
Yeah, basically we had these both tracks active at the same time. So we have raised several rounds, like the initial angel round, and then a seed round and a second seed. So the next logical option was the Series A, but for that you need to have enough monthly recurring revenue and about maybe 100,000 a month, and our revenue wasn't quite that high. So it's very difficult to raise a Series A round if you don't have the numbers up. So then COVID started and all the VCs, they became very careful about their investments, and it looked like it's going to be impossible to raise a round in 2020. So then we got the offer from Hexagon. So I think it was a no-brainer at that time. We didn't really have options. Maybe if we would have started to raise the A round a bit earlier, then maybe. But
okay, not waiting too long. That's also a learning. Cihat, I have a question to you. As an early stage startup, how much does it make sense for you to start being a little bit more public and outgoing and, leveraging all the community experiences and so on. I have an example of last year, you participating in the Startup Day, which is one of the biggest startup events in Estonia, winning basically all the prizes you could there. What is your story? Has it been always your, given that you're a computer scientist on the background, how did you make yourself go out there and make it public?
Well, very personal question. First of all, I think I think more than VSight and me, Alexa and you were more visible on those photos and stuff. That was crazy. While I was remote and you guys were going and taking all the prizes. You're kind of our part of our marketing effort, so to say. But I'm glad to have you. But overall, I think it is kind of like very important to be in the public. I mean, somehow someone has to do it. I mean, it's not about the question if you should do it or not, but someone has to do it, and it should be natural, of course. It is not like a hacking or something. It's not about something to learn, in my opinion. But it is just like someone inside the company should do it and should be more visible, should do the pitches and should connect with everyone. So and that is a must, in my opinion. I mean, it's not something nice to have or would ease something. I mean, like especially for like specifically fundraising, I think it is very much about the hype, about the visibility, about the existence. Someone hears your name, and also plus if you're early stage, you're looking for investors. But of course, after some time, you should also kind of inside your customers, there should be a word of mouth, which is the most precious and kind of less expensive way of acquiring new customers also. So that's why, in my opinion, like sales just starts when the deal is signed, but then it starts to engage with the customer, engage with them, so that they will be happy. They will give your contact to some other customers. They will give the reference to you, etc. So I believe that is the most important part, where you should have a very solid connection, solid network, so to say. Of course, that's also an ability to learn all the time. But again, I think like it is also like I'm hearing a lot, for example, from the early stage startups that I'm mentoring to. So they're asking like in 2 years we will start going to the pitching events and stuff, which in my opinion it's so wrong. And like I think everyone should just attend to any pitching event, any networking event that is possible. It's not about 2 years or 1 year or 6 months, or it's not about that, because when the time comes, it can be an investment. It can be something like a poll. It can be for some startups. It can be also fundraising through the community. That's also very important to have an ecosystem, to have a network that is important. So I mean, in my opinion, that is one of the thing that one of the founders should be always the face, always engaged with everyone, and I think that pays off. I mean, being very much visible is something important. Plus, also the customer should know who are the people behind, like who is the face, who are the people behind the venture, because that's all about the trust. And I believe that also plays a big role on fundraising, and also the customer acquisition too, because like everyone checks everything. And for a small startup, coming from somewhere, it doesn't matter where you are, so it is very important to be visible, to be everywhere, so to say.
Yeah, I totally agree. So when you're a small startup, you have to go to all the events and make yourself visible, so that everybody starts to remember your company name.
Yeah, sorry, Mikko. I'll offer a different perspective. So we are definitely very visible at the moment, because now it's the time to scale and we want to get to a lot of people, and like I'm very active and publicly. But I think when you're still figuring out the product and finding product market fit and looking for our first customers and like looking for a model that works, that mostly comes from sitting at your home or at your office and grinding and building and speaking with customers and experimenting and iterating and things like that. So like if you don't have product market fit, you should get product market fit or you'll die, or you'll have like not a big outcome. So like that's kind of like basically what you have to do, and like that's usually, I think more founders fall into the trap of spending too much time on like not valuable things that feel like you're making progress, like going to events and speaking with investors and like blah blah blah, all those things. While you should actually stay at home and like work and like build a product that people need, or pivot and try to build it in a different direction. So yeah, but it also depends on where you're coming from. If you don't have access to investors, you need to somehow create the connections. You need to somehow find out, get to know people that can make your intros. So like, yes, that's necessary. So if you don't do that, you can't fundraise. You can't just write investors and then they won't respond to you. So like there's always a balance. But I think I've seen a lot of founders that kind of just do conferencing and that's their business. And it's like not smart.
No, absolutely. You need to have something, and then you can talk about it, right?
Yeah, and ultimately, what you do, your product drives everything. So, getting the product right, getting the machine right, like it's very much an internal effort, right? Building a company, and then like partnerships and stuff help, but you need to have something that is valuable and creates value for your customers and stuff before.
Amazing. I think we're coming to the end of this session, and before we finish it off, I want to ask you 2 questions, and this will be to all of you. So whoever wants to start, and you can compliment one another. The first one will be very generic, I know, but we would love to hear that from you. What do you think is the future of XR?
It's gonna be great. I think like VR is now kind of really in an interesting spot where devices are cheap and people are actually using them. Like the Quest 2 has been doing well, so like let's see how that evolves. I think we're very far away from like having good AR glasses that we can use on scale that will be affordable and have a good experience. At the same time, like people obviously spend a lot more time in virtual worlds generally, and that's kind of connected a little bit. So yeah, let's see.
Well, I think, of course, it's going to be amazing, but I think, especially in AR, VR, XR, like the thing that we are doing or engaging with is very, how to put it into words, I'll say like fluffy. And like I see a lot of things like, everything right now is somehow connected to the metaverse. Everyone is metaverse expert. Everyone is NFT expert. Everyone is like that's just a hype. And I think that's just a bubble. Which will eventually come to an end, and I think who will prevail from this is just like if you're building something that is solving a real problem, that is solving a daily problem, that is solving a basic problem. So it's not about that fluff, that bubble out there. And I believe that for short term, maybe it might create lots of interest or something, but I believe that for the long term, definitely that bubble will just eventually come to a position, because like that's crazy. I'm just watching like I don't know. I'm gutted. I'm speechless. Everyone is the expert there. So that's why it might also hurt the reputation of the technology, because that is also very important to bring the real value. And couple of times it happened in the ecosystem, like for example with the Google Glass, everyone was waiting to be like, oh my god, I'll just wear it and all the info of my life is going to change, and it hurt it, in my opinion. It even kind of slowed down the expansion of the technology, and that's why I see the same right now. But overall, I believe that it is the future, and not only future, but it is already today that is happening. Yeah, that's just my humble opinion.
Yeah, I also believe that XR is going to be amazing and big, but I don't know when. I'm still waiting for the Apple headset, because I think that may, specifically with AR, it may bring it closer to the masses customers. So everybody wants to use it because it's Apple and cool. Let's see. There are some hints in the new iOS version that you can enable some headset specific XR settings for Safari. So I think it's actually quite close to the release of the headset. But I might be wrong, but I think it's going to be quite simple at first. They're not trying to do everything. It's going to be an iteration, like an iPhone or Apple Watch. Every year you will get a slightly improved version. So I think that's going to happen with the headset also.
Thank you. Now, last question for today. Since the context of this particular panel is also the accelerator and we're looking for XR teams, please apply. What were your experiences? If you're a young, early stage founder with a new idea that you're developing right now, why should you consider, and maybe what was your personal experience?
Yeah, I mean, I think it really depends on the position where you are. You know, like if you need a connection, quick kind of a connection to the startup ecosystem, investors and stuff like that, that's helpful. If you haven't built a startup, haven't worked in a startup before, then getting just the context of how startups work and think and grow and so forth, I think is helpful. So it really depends on the kind of the context. Our experience was that we had been building on our own, didn't really call ourselves a startup at first, and then we were like, okay, there's probably some best practices we can learn. There's probably some people that we can meet that have been through the journey before, and we can learn from. And that was the thinking 5 or 6 years ago, and it was definitely helpful. But it really depends on where you stand and what's your context. If you have great people around you that have built it before already, that have funded you, I don't know, it depends, right? But it's definitely, there's a reason, so many companies have decided to go through acceleration and startup wise guys, and yeah, it's definitely depends on where you are, but it's a good solution to get into this space very quickly.
Yeah, Immersal was part of the Nordic XR startups back in 2017. We were in the first batch when the program started, and it was a very good experience. We got I think €100,000 investment and an office, and with maybe 4 other startups with the same mindset, and a lot of connections to investors, potential clients, and the mentors were super cool from Google and Unity and all these big companies, and very, very good. And also the program director became a chairman of our board later. So they were, even after our batch ended, they were very involved after that also, which was nice.
Well, I totally agree, but I'll just add one thing from a different perspective. I think, for us, what was important is to not only learn from the mentors and from the past experiences, but also from the problems of other startups that are participating to the acceleration program. I think that was also very valuable to learn about their kind of their problems, which kind of cave hats they are having in their venture, which eventually was something that we would see also. And I should say that we learned a lot, not only from the mentors, but from other startups also. And we kind of, it gives you kind of glimpse of being a bit of proactive on kind of being ready on the next phase and next problems, because when you see different startups, different problems on different phases, so that also gives you a very good insight. Actually, I believe that acceleration program in that manner is also very important and very valuable. But I will also add that please select your acceleration program very carefully, because it is also just like kind of like team member or co-founder. It should fit to your culture. It should fit to how you see your venture, how they see your venture. So there should be a good fit there. So, but for us, the experience was amazing, and I should say that it just kind of boosted our way of growing like crazy. So I'm 100% sure about the program, etc.
Thank you so much. Thank you, every one of you, for joining, for sharing with us your experience, your thoughts. This was very interesting to listen to, and I'm sure very insightful for our audience. I will remind you that Startup Wise Guys has opened the very first XR acceleration program that is currently scouting. The applications are open until April 28th, but don't wait till the last second. Apply already and start talking to us. We're also going to Laval Virtual and are doing an offline pitch day there. So if you feel like pitching in front of real people and then talking to us, please write to us, and we will make sure that everything happens. And last thing, we will have an investor panel on April 19. We will talk about XR for the investments, its future, and how it's going to shape in the nearest future, according to some of the experts. Again, thank you so much. Thanks for joining, and thank you to the audience for listening to us. We'll see you around.
Thank you.
Thank you. And one more thing, if you don't want